My name is Brooks Palmer, and I'm doing a Nurse 490 interview, a servant leader interview with Amy Albright. And Amy, I just want to confirm with you that you are granting me permission to use this interview in my course.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I want to talk to you about your leadership style and what you think is important. And I have some questions here that I need to ask you.
Okay.
Amy is the health educator in the emergency department at Carlisle Regional Medical Center.
Yes.
Okay, so the first question is, what do you think that you can do in your leadership role to empower others?
I'm a firm believer of leading by example. You can't lead a team if you're not part of the team, which in my role, and then doing the stroke program stuff, and then we have the trauma program kind of on the horizons, they have, wanted to pull me out of staffing, which I have totally disagreed that is appropriate.
Okay.
I feel like leading by example and showing, that you don't always have to be in charge, that you can be doing the grunt work with the best of them and be elbow deep, putting in Foley's and that kind of thing is the best way to keep the respect of your team and continue to empower your team and show them that, listen, I'm right here with you. And, I know that this might be really horrible or that we're all having a rough day, but we're in it together.
Very good. All right. And the second question is, what is your definition of a servant leader? And it's kind of the same type thing we just talked about.
Being a servant leader, you definitely have to show that you are knowledgeable and that you're a resource, but again, you can't put yourself above anyone else, and you have to do what's best for the team, and you can't always look at it as what's in this for me.
Okay.
A servant is not looking, at gaining anything from doing something. It's about, being there for others, whether it's, helping out the techs who are drowning, or, even if it's something as simple as getting your docs, something to eat because they're really cranky. And we know that cranky docs are, not the easiest to work with because they're hungry.
Yeah.
Even if it's just something little, you have to look at the big picture of how will this impact the team, and not, what's in this for me, how will this make me look better if you're doing it for the better of the greater good, I guess you would say.
That's right. All right. What are your personal leadership strengths?
I think I'm really good at comic relief.
You are.
We like to have a lot of fun, so I think that is a good leadership strength that I can definitely, I feel like I'm a good resource person, and I can take stress and direction well, and I can delegate when needed and kind of take control of the situation. I think, a lot of times in our environment especially, that, we're dysfunctional. I think we're all, we all have our own role in this dysfunctional family. I'm probably a ringleader when it comes to that kind of dysfunction, but I think that's what makes us a strong group, is we know the line between assertive and aggressive, and when you kind of have to step on or over the line in either direction.
Gotcha.
So, and I feel like I like to lead by an example, and I feel like, some of the younger people are kind of learning the tricks of the trade as far as making sure that you are asserting yourself and not looking like a total meanie head doing it.
No, that's absolutely correct. Do you allow for staff members to meet their full potential? And if so, how do you accomplish this goal?
Well, meeting full potential is kind of a broad spectrum there, because I feel like we all have, in our environment, there's never a chance to stop learning. Things are always changing. There's always new diseases, new treatments, new medications. And with us working as hard as we do and not really having a lot of downtime, it's hard to make sure that people are meeting their full potential. I mean, I know that working for our company, you have the opportunity to go back to school and take classes and stuff like that, but because of the environment that we work in, it's not always feasible to do those things, because we work really hard. A lot of us work overtime or come in early or stay late, and so that kind of affects our personal lives and our being, active enough to try and do other things, because a lot of times we're exhausted.
Okay.
So.
Yep. No, I agree. What role do you allow fellow staff members to play in collaborating on decisions?
Well, a lot of that because I'm one of the charge nurses, I mean, we're always taking suggestions. I always try and figure out, you know, is there something that you feel like you guys need educated on? You know, there was an issue with us doing the TPA. People weren't really sure how to do the TPA, or hey, did you know that we technically should be running this, you know, 10 of Reglan and a 50cc mini bag, and hey, what are we doing with, you know, this kind of stuff and with these different policies. So I feel like when you know, I have a concern raised, I address it to the group, and then that way we can kind of come up with a collaborative solution. Somebody had said about the insulin drips. They were concerned because the insulin drips, ours are the 50 and 250, and everywhere else that they worked, it was 100 and 100, so it was like a 1-to-1 ratio.
Right.
So, you know, I said, well, that's something that we can look at. It's probably going to take it back to Congress to get it changed because of our protocols. But I feel like people are pretty comfortable with approaching me with a problem, and then we work on the solution together for what's, you know, the greatest group. Because if everybody is having the same issue, then there's no reason that we should look into changing it.
Absolutely. All right, let's see. How do you, as a servant leader, meet the needs of individuals while continuing to meet the group needs as a whole? Kind of what we've already
Yeah, kind of the
talked
same
about,
thing. You know, making sure that, you know, that's when we do those safety cuddles every morning, and we talk about, you know, what issues did we have. And, you know, people bring up anything. It's not always medication related. Sometimes it's a safety issue. Sometimes it's a technical issue. I feel like we come together as a group and say, okay, well then, like, how can we fix this? Okay, did we already, you know, take the appropriate steps and put in a work order? I know our biggest thing right now is stretchers. So, you know, I took the opportunity when I went to one of the, like, 8 o'clock safety meetings with all of administration, I brought that up, and I brought up one of our safety moments was, you know, we kept someone from falling because of the stretchers. And that was enough for a couple of the administrators to come down and actually look at the stretchers, and we were able to show them several stretchers, you know, shifting and saying, this is how this person almost fell. You can see that the bed is locked. And even though we had been, you know, beating them to death with our complaints about stretchers, sometimes them just coming down and looking at it is, you know, it gets us way ahead of the game as far as, you know, actually getting the money for the stretchers.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. How do you handle suggestions and feedback when negotiating changes and improvements?
Well, of course, we're going through a lot of changes right now. We have lots of changes as far as our physician group. And so really, you know, we have to understand that we are in a role that we're seeing change all the time, whether it's, you know, treatment protocols or our, you know, whatever medications we're going to be using for first line drugs, or how things are going to be functioning in the department. So really it's all about, it's trial and error. I mean, we're doing this, you know, with our door to doc times, and then the, you know, not vetting ahead, but like, you know, immediate triage process.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to say, okay, how is this going to work for us? And okay, well, let's try it. And if it doesn't work, how can we change it so we're still meeting what corporate wants? Again, leading by example. And I mean, because do we all want to, you know, do I love being in charge and triage first thing in the morning with my phone ringing every 2 seconds?
Right.
Absolutely not. But sometimes you just kind of have to suck it up and deal and say, listen, I know that it sucks because I'm doing it too.
Right.
But, you know, we need to figure out, we need to show them this is why it works, or this is why it doesn't work, and here's what we can do to make it work or make it better or make it easier for us. So I feel like, you know, leading by example and making sure that, you know, we all know that we're in it together, and change can sometimes be hard. Change, you know, right now when it starts doesn't always seem like it's the best thing, but we have to look at the big picture. And yeah, everything is hard once it gets started. It's, you know, it's like exercise. You know, what you're doing right now that's really hard, you know, soon will be your workout.
Right.
Your like part of your workout, and then it'll just be your warm up, and then you'll just kind of go beyond that. So you have to kind of build on your successes, even though they might be small.
Absolutely. Would you describe yourself as a servant leader? If yes, can you give an example of your ability to display this trait? Well, I think you've given it examples the whole time.
I didn't even know that question was on there. Okay, well, let's just skip that one. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm a good servant leader. You know, of course, we all, you know, have our strengths and weaknesses, and I feel like I do like to look at the greater good and figure out what is going to work for me, what's going to work for the patients, what's going to work for the good of the group. Because a lot of times, like I said, we're going through all these changes, and that can make it hard. But if we embrace it, even if we fail, it's like, listen, I gave it 100%.
Right, you tried.
So
Yeah.
yeah, and I feel like, you know, that way I can show the other people, like, well, you know, yeah, it might only work on day shift because we have administration there, or we
Right.
have this there. Well, you know, I work weird shifts, and I'll work night shifts, and you know, I work weekends and holidays, so you know, we don't always have the luxury of having administration either.
Right.
But I feel like, you know, if you give your 100% and the group recognizes that, and they know, like, well, hey, she gets it, you know, hey, she knows we're working short, she picks up too.
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, you just keep the respect of your peers then, because you're not seen as, you know, somebody in a position of power, because you're kind of one of them as well.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. Well, thank you very much for agreeing to meet with me.
You're quite welcome.
Interview. I wish I could take you with me.
Well, I'd love to go.
All right.
11th floor, I can do steps.
There you go. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.